Welcome back, America. We're going to go right back to the phone lines because Dr. Grace is with us. And tell us more about Edward Snowden. You weren't finished with what you were saying, and you have a whole lot more to say about that.
Yes, I think that, Carl, when he first gave his interview at The Guardian, and we all saw that, a YouTube interview, it went viral, he struck me as an extremely intelligent, very capable person. And we were basically being told by our own government to disbelieve our own eyes because we were subsequently told, nah, this guy is a low-level worker. He's nobody to take serious. He hasn't had much of a career. He's a high school dropout. So they were basically trying to convince us to disbelieve our very own eyes and our very own ears. Well, I heard the whole interview on NBC the other night, and he has explained that he has had a long, long career working for the CIA, for example. He was overseas undercover. He's been a CIA operative for our government. And he is extremely intelligent, extremely capable, and there's no denying when he speaks that he's extremely principled. He was asked point blank, do you still think that you're working for the U.S. government? And he said, of course I'm working for the U.S. government. If you think about what's happened over the last 10 years, our government has changed. I'm working for the government that every patriot should support, the one that defends individual liberty and privacy. But that's not the government we have anymore.
Right.
Well, and he is so true. And I hope that he is the most impressive person, I think, of our lifetime, Carl.
Well, listen, the federal government, Obama's administration, they did not lie to us about Benghazi. They didn't lie about Fast and Furious. They didn't lie about the NSA. They didn't lie about the IRS. They didn't lie about the birth certificate. Why should we think you're a nut job, Dr. Grace? You're a racist if you think they're lying about Snowden.
Yeah.
Did you catch my sarcasm?
I totally, honestly, I totally got it. And you know what's ironic from my point of view? Do you know that the Canadian government, for example, has refused to participate in a program like the NSA surveillance one? And what's amazing to me, I left Canada thinking that I was going to a freer society, a society that was much more capitalistic, much more weary and protective of individual rights, much less in the throes of liberalism, much less, I thought people's rights were much less trodden upon by the state. And here I am 12 years later, and Canada, I cannot believe it, Canada is literally a freer society than the United States.
I know.
And that's not just me saying it. This is based on published reports that examine economic freedom and political freedom and how the defense industry works there vis-a-vis here. Literally, you're more free in Canada, which has been known as a socialist state for decades.
Right.
You're freer now in Canada than you are in the United States. And I think God's playing a really, really wicked joke on me here.
Well, listen, I've got to say, on behalf of America, we apologize to you and your husband. And secondly, we're embarrassed. But because when you came here, when you and Jeff came here, we were that nation that you just described. But under the last two administrations, Obama and, yes, George W. Bush, this is when it really turned. I mean, in the Clinton it started and on and on. I mean, it's never been a perfect nation. It never has. But you're right. You described how we used to be as far as just really holding sacrosanct those personal freedoms and government intrusion, etc. But under Obama, it's the exclamation point on the end of the sentence. And it really took a downhill turn under George Bush, particularly with the NSA and Department of Homeland Security, etc.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Carl. Both parties are to blame, and both administrations are to blame, because this is a Frankenstein that George Bush created, and then Obama and Hillary Clinton, they nursed this Frankenstein to health. That's really what happened here.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing to me. My husband and I were watching a movie a couple of nights ago called Not Without My Daughter. It's very famous. It stars Sally Field, and it was produced in the 1980s. It's about a woman who goes to Iran with her husband on vacation. And she's trapped there because he won't let her leave. He wants to raise her in the Muslim faith. Well, she struggles to leave. It's a true story. And there's a final scene where, as she's approaching she takes her daughter, and as she's approaching one of the embassies that will give her freedom, she sees the American flag, and she turns to her daughter and says, "We're home, baby, we're home." Now, I remember seeing this movie in the 90s, and I remember thinking, oh, the flag really represents freedom, and I was moved to tears at the end. And I see this movie now, and as they're approaching the American flag, and she's saying, "We're home, baby, we're home, baby," I look at the flag and I say, Carl, the flag doesn't stand for the same things that it used to stand for. It's not the same America.
Yeah.
It's not the land of freedom.
No, it doesn't, and it's not, but we're working to restore that, because right now we have a man in the Oval Office who's more than likely not even eligible to be there, who went on an apology tour. The first thing he did was go around the world apologizing for the United States. That's not America.